Yeah.
That's how people, but when we come out and say the truth, people don't want to hear the truth. Anyway, that is what is happening with the Kenya Editors Guild there. And now talking about evidence, and I don't know if we need to bring this up, Victor.
Yes.
I want to draw your attention to page 3, and this happened in the courts, where a man's CCTV foot evidence is useless in his divorce case. What am I talking about? In a landmark ruling, Justice Anthony Mrima made the decision on the grounds that the evidence was obtained unlawfully. Now, they have chosen to go with KKR, had produced RC's footage, which is a wife, from a secretly installed CCTV camera, her voice recordings, photographs, emails, and even her social media contents to defend his divorce petition in his petition there. Now, that's what the court has said. All the marked exhibits amount to illegally obtained evidence and offends the administration of justice. Victor, what say you? This is a high court.
Wow.
What say you?
Wow. One, it's illegal to record someone without their consent.
Yeah.
All right. You never know. The court might just try to argue that some of these things are state managed. All right. 3, you may not understand whether the person whose picture has been adduced before the court as evidence is the correct person or not. And 4, when you have the right, when you want to divorce someone, it has to be beyond reasonable doubt as per the law. All right. Do we have matters of being unfaithful, promiscuity, and all those things? For women, you can decide and divorce your husband because of violence. These are some of the reasons. Even men, because of violence, because men also go through such. So I think there's a certain threshold that the court can use the social media, the video, and all that to acquit someone or to jail someone on matters divorce. So how did it even happen that this man mounted some cameras and took pictures and videos to divorce this person? How was it going to work in this situation? Like at what point?
Jane, what say you in regard to this matter? Remember, this was CCTV footage that was, used for their home, for even the school. There's even her emails and her social media logins, photographs. Someone hacking into your system to just prove that you are not faithful. What is your take before I read what the judge had to say? Jane, then Doreen.
Casually speaking, uko na evidence yote, but legally speaking, bro, you got nothing if you cannot prove how you got this evidence. And that's it. That's where justice begins. If you cannot prove where you got, or rather how you got the evidence that you have, that you're presenting in court, no matter how watertight it is, even they are caught in the act. Ndio hisi walikuwa naiba, ndio ameshika hivi, anaonekana kwa the CCTV hivi. If you cannot prove that you acquired that evidence legally, you've got nothing. You've got nothing. And this all goes to invasion of privacy, which is the right for every person enshrined in the Constitution.
Awesome. Doreen, what's your take before I read what the judge had to say?
Yeah, that's where I wanted to begin, from the invasion of privacy. Because, I mean, if you really want to divorce someone regardless, I don't think you really have to go through all that, getting all their details, the emails, the phone, and all the messages.
That's a lot of work, bro.
It is. All on emails, on texts, on chats, just because you want to divorce this person on basis of unfaithfulness. I mean, it's on it, just in itself, that fact is already wrong. Regardless of the kind of evidence they're providing, it's already wrong. How do you do that?
Okay, now this landmark ruling. The judge was giving his verdict on a petition filed by RC. They have chosen to go with the lady RC against KKR, dated December 2020. Simbali. She challenged the manner in which some of the alleged evidence on the divorce suit was obtained. She claimed that the man's conduct violated her right to privacy and dignity as guaranteed in the Constitution. Jane, you were right in that. She accused the man of illegally invading her privacy by using secret surveillance in her bedroom, recordings, and by hacking her personal mobile phone, email and social media accounts. She went further to pray that the court expunge the evidence and declare them illegal. Now, in making his judgment, or rather verdict, High Court Judge Anthony Mrima, he said all the marked exhibits amount to illegally obtained evidence and offends the administration of justice.
Wow. So as it is, they're still married.
Yeah, because he does not have evidence to prove or
Dang
to
it.
justify his
Dang! But how will that
appeal for a divorce.
But how will that work going forward? I mean, this is someone who's dragged your name virtually through the mud. This is a lot of emotional trauma, push and pull. But within the law, I think I know two reasons why one can file for divorce. One of them is infidelity. The other one is desertion. I think there are four reasons that are entrenched in the law.
Yes,
how you go about
differences.
Yes, desertion, infidelity. I don't know the fourth. But I think
violence.
I don't know, man. It's subject
because you cannot
in as
stay
far
in a
as
violent relationship. I
mean,
And violence comes in many forms.
So there we have it. I don't know who takes it up after that.
So I think that's a wake-up call, because it's actually, there's nothing new under the sun. There are people who do that. Even right now as we speak, somebody has mounted a camera somewhere.
Even right now as we speak.
Even as we speak. So that's like a wake-up call. So you guy or you lady, if you've done that, just know that your evidence, whatever you're doing, when you take it before the court of law, you've done zero work. So start afresh. Get a serious evidence. That is not going to
legally acquired.
Exactly. If you're recording your spouse, you're
alikuwa anajua kuna kamera kwa nyumba.
I mean,
and she still went ahead and did so and this.
Exactly.
I can only breathe.
Let's talk about courts a bit. And there is a guy here, he said, and I quote, "I beat my wife for attempting to curse me." Man tells magistrate. Now let me give you a story. Now, man charged with assaulting his wife on Wednesday defended his action, saying that the spouse had attempted to curse him. Collins Mudaida, who pleaded guilty to assaulting his wife for serving him too much sukuma wiki, told Kibera Senior Principal Magistrate Derek Kuto that he beat Mercy Kegehi after she contravened the lawyer culture and cursed him and his generation. And I quote, "My lord, she removed her clothes, then held my child on her laps and told me that I will never get a woman pregnant." He said, "She also sat on my bed and table naked, saying that my generation was completely over. I only beat her because she cursed my generation, my honor. You know very well what the lawyer culture entails." But this, the magistrate told the suspect off and asked him to stop generalizing the community in this case. And the judge said, "Mr. Accused, just stop that. Don't say lawyers in this matter because you are very wrong." So court prosecutor Nancy Karubo said that the accused was very angry after his wife questioned him about having another wife. She told the court that the accused had arrived home late that day before he was served ugali and sukuma wiki. But because the quarrelsome he started being quarrelsome and said that he doesn't understand why alipewa sukuma wiki na ugali.
So that's not the issue, the sukuma wiki and the ugali. It's because she asked a question.
Victor, naswali, aliacha pesa ya nyama. I'm just wondering.
Too much sukuma wiki. And
are you providing so that you can ask these questions? Where are people like this, you know? You can't question what has been prepared in your home if you're not providing.
If you left
food
nothing
to be prepared. Dear Lord, you should be grateful that you're not going home and having an empty tummy all night, you know?
Kumbe, probably he wanted some. I mean, it's things happening out here.
Are you providing, Victor? Is that man providing? That is what?
Okay, it's in the so much.
Yeah. There's a part from that article where the wife had asked questions about another woman.
Yes.
So that could perhaps...
And by the way...
It's not about the skuma and the ugali.
It's not about the skuma and the ugali. Probably the lady didn't just want to say, "Hakuna chakula." So she cooked in protest. But the main reason here is this man has another wife. We all know that women do not need to share. You can't
We are told to be smart in this world, Allah.
Adopt and adapt.
Yes.
And learn and relearn.
Jua kuishi.
Wow.
Unajua, no one will ever accuse you ati you poisoned your guy. Anakula ugali na skuma. Labda apendi. But you are protesting. Just being smart about it. There are people who don't like githeri, so you prepare githeri until they ask you, madam, shida ni nini? Then you have an avenue to actually say, shida iko wapi? Watu wenye wanapenda mandazi, you prepare pancakes. Yeah, you stop mandazi supply. Then you start doing ndoma or something. Then they'll ask you, kwani mandazi kuliendaje?
Ama muhogo.
Ama muhogo.
Na sasa hapo ndo unaanza kuongea.
Ni sawa tu, it's a form of communication.
However, you open that channel of communication.
but at the end of the day, you've communicated.
Up to you.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I still believe violence should never be the way, especially for people who are in a committed relationship. Violence, man.
Things happen. Things happen.
Things happen, but
and it's
when
just
it gets
too much.
to a point,
It's just too much. We can never talk about that. There's a story here, and Nairobians, I think they're going to have some sigh of relief as they court again Justice Mrima. I think Justice Mrima had so much on his desk this week, and the High Court has extended an order stopping Nairobi County government from increasing parking fees for both private and public service vehicles. Justice Anthony Mrima said until a petition filed by the Consumer Federation of Kenya and Matatu Owners Association is heard and determined, there should be no increment of parking fees in Nairobi. So it's going to be still a holiday for motorists in Nairobi, and the NMS have also been enjoined in this case until that case is heard and determined. So the parking still remains at 200 shillings as it is right now until further notice. That is according to Justice Anthony Mrima.
Thank God.
A reprieve there.
Absolutely. Now, we are almost coming to the end of this particular segment, and I just want us to close with this story here on the back page of the Daily Nation involving the Kimwarer and Aror Dam scandal. Now, the Italian company that was contracted to participate in the construction of this particular dams was one... let me get the name of this particular company, CMC di Ravenna. It is an Italian company. So they were contracted to build these two dams back in 2017 at a cost of 66 billion Kenya shillings, 38 bill for Kimwarer, 28 for Aror over a period of 60 months. But in 2019, President Kenyatta ordered the cancellation of this particular project and because of all the inconsistencies that were involved. So now they have decided to sue us, and we, the taxpayers, could be paying an estimated $114,177,645. This translates to about 12.38 billion Kenya shillings. They want to be compensated because of the irregular cancellation of this contract that they had signed, and this is under the applicable law. And they want us as a country to pay this through this particular company, the Kerio Valley Development Authority. They want KVDA to be liable for all other failures to comply with its contractual obligations, and to cater for the costs of the case, the losses and the damages that were suffered by this Italian contractor.
What do you add on to that?
12.38 bill, guys.
Well, we're talking about that National Treasury is seeking an international, he's seeking the services of a highly reputable and experienced advisory firm to help it restructure the external commercial debt in what is aimed at easing the country's debt burden. I don't know how to interpret that. So instead of us restructuring our loans, and we are looking for services of an international... somebody else. Victor, it's an article on page 6 of the Standard if you want to get to know what has been advertised by Treasury there. We need someone, an international firm, to give us advice on how to manage our debt.
an international firm to give us advice.
Yes, and it's an advert. I don't know even how we read these things out
How
loud.
to manage
We need
our
somewhere
debt.
to benchmark.
I think we're losing it. We're losing it. On what context to advise on how to manage your funds? On what context? Depends on, like you need an audit firm.
Actually, they're
how
saying
we should be running our house.
they have
How?
advertised for a highly reputable and experienced advisory firm to help it restructure external commercial debt in what is aimed at easing the country's debt burden. Now, if the firm is, if the successful firm is expected to advise Treasury on how to manage its liabilities, on especially on the repayment of expensive loans that are about to mature. Remember, we are preparing for a fourth Eurobond, with Kenya allowed to borrow up to 780 billion from the international financial market under the 3-year program. It has with the International Monetary Fund.
Hapo ndo tumefika.
It doesn't feel like a Thursday. I talk about entertainment. It doesn't.
Wow.
And
It doesn't.
okay,
Wow.
just
Na
before,
kuhayo,
just before we close in the headlines, there's this one particular story which I'd just love to run you through. This is in regards to the rising throat cancer cases and what medics are now saying in regards to that, given the time when we're really fighting the third wave, battling rather the third wave of COVID-19, where now local hospitals are getting increasingly overwhelmed by a rapid surge in cancer cases that continue to eat into resources and cripple prevention and curative services. This is the esophagus cancer, which is fast becoming one of the region's leading killer, and this is after the breast and the prostate cancer. So what now Professor Nicholas is saying is that out of the 4,380 people diagnosed with this disease every year, only an average of 29 persons get to survive. So yes, in as much as they are leading this to the lack of equipment and drugs, they also say that the issue of misdiagnosis and poor lifestyles is to blame for these high cases. But imagine only 29 out of over 4,000 get to survive from this kind of cancer.
lifestyle diseases, we need to have more conversations around that.
Yeah.
But due to the constraint of time and all that we have planned for you, we want to put a cap on in the headlines at that particular point. But we have so much coming up after the break. Remember, the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya, at KBC Channel 1, at Dorina Range, at Rayma Nyara, at Victor Olo, and Jane Wamboy is how you can talk to us on Twitter. Stay with us.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye Quickbin ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Next on
Matumizi mabaya ya ofisi, hasa zaidi ofisi za umma.
Na vile vitu vya mtoto vile vya akijisaidia zile pampers zile.
Pampers.
Nichukulie. Jana soko isijui iko wapi. Yeye mtoko hata nikiwa mama kiti kwa wapi? Hizi jina kiti kwa wapi? Na leo jaipitia.
Anawacha kazi ya kupeleka file, anatumwa supermarket.
Yaani this. Hii kitu inaharibu jina ya kampuni. This is what you call the game. Kwa takataka kwa hapo. Yote ndani tunaelewa hapo nje kwa ngine kwa ngara kabisa. Sasa boss September ni tarakilishi.
Huo ni ungwana kweli.
Welcome to National Youth Service. Established in 1964 to train young people in important national matters, it was restructured by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta into a premier agency through which government executes an elaborate and comprehensive youth empowerment master plan.
Kwanza napenda kumshukuru mteremezi kwa kuniumba jinsi nilivyo. Niko na ulemavu wa macho. Pia ningependa kushukuru Director General kwa kutuhold hapa. Niliambiwa na marafiki zangu miaka iliyopita hapo wanachukua watu ambao ni walemavu, but saizi wanachukua ambao ni walemavu.
I came here just to achieve my dream and to be somebody special so that I can be someone useful in the society.
Instructor peke yake, correct demo about turn by numbers. Turn by numbers about turn 1-1.
This is where we feed service human recruits. We have messes. We have double span. We call it double span because there are two wings. There is this wing and the other wing. So one wing can hold 1,200. The other one can hold 1,200. So with the complex here, we can feed 4,800 at a go.
I joined NYS after being told by my friend who was there here before. Giving thanks to the government, NYS, everybody, thank you for incorporating us here.
This financial year, there are 7,478 recruits graduating at NYS Paramilitary Academy. Recently, National Youth Service launched a program involving training of border. National Youth Service, huduma kwa taifa.
And on that note, we are now joined by Matilda Sakwa, who is the Director General at the National Youth Service. Good morning, Matilda. Thank you for making time to be with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Kenya.
Good to have you again.
Thank you so much. Always glad to be with you.
Fantastic. Now, I want us to just get straight into this particular conversation. And of course, I want us to start with the basics as we build onto this particular conversation. Of course, in light with the culmination of the Pasa parade that will be happening. But maybe we could start with helping our viewers understand, the mandate and the functions of the National Youth Service, and especially since you took office.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The mandate of the National Youth Service is basically to train disciplined and uniformed youth. Secondly, our other mandate is to ensure that we empower the youth through skill development. That's why we take them to vocational training. And lastly, our mandate has been expanded to do commercialization so that the National Youth Service is able to engage in other commercial activities. But the core of the National Youth Service is to impact skills, to train, and to ensure that the youth of this country are patriotic, and they can actually also withstand any situation in the country. And therefore, that's why we take them to paramilitary training so that they can get these skills, and therefore they can have that endurance that we're looking for. It is an issue of character development. Development.
Now, I like the fact that you've mentioned, issues to do with character development, because this is well in line with the younger population of our country. And one would just like to see the relationship that you as the National Youth Service have to play in line with making sure that the graduates that you put out in the country are in line with the priorities even of the country. So maybe you could take us through, how as the National Youth Service you are aligning your training to the national agenda.
Thank you so much. Thank you, studio. Now, the first thing we must understand is that before these youths are taken through any training that can answer to the demands of the country, we must take them through paramilitary training, as I said, so that we can mold them and build their character. Then secondly, they go to national service where they serve the country for 1 full year. And during this service of 1 full year, they engage in activities of national importance. For example, we have the railway rehabilitation. We also do security at the airport, at KICC, and other installations. We also ensure that we participate with other government agencies, just to ensure that these youths that we have now to graduate them to a vocational training understand that their role is to ensure the country moves in the right direction. Now, answering your question, in vocational training, we ensure that the youths are taken through the skills that are needed in the Big Four agenda. Basically, we train them in masonry, we train them in agriculture, we train them in manufacturing in terms of making sure the cotton. So we grow cotton, we also grow food stuff, that is in agriculture sector. We also make sure we train them to be electricians and all other skills that are needed in the market to ensure that this country moves forward. So basically, we look at the skills that are needed in the market and we train them in the vocational training. And when the youths come, we look at their grades, of course, and therefore each one of them is taken to a course that answers to their grade. And of late, because of the health, the different agenda in health, we have decided to take them to MTCs also to do nursing so that we can also increase the numbers of health workers in the country. So we look at the market and therefore we also introduce new skills in the market. But overall, our training is geared towards answering the demand, and especially in the 4 big agenda of manufacturing, of housing, and such kind of skills.
Oh, fantastic. Now, I remember last time we had you, we were just having this whole conversation, and you swore that we would never have another NYS 3. And maybe you could tell us a bit about the reforms that, you have been putting in place and they have taken root to just make sure that NYS continues on the right trajectory that you are hoping to leave it at by the time you are leaving office. Madam Director?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Maybe just taking up what I had asked is in regards to the last time we had you here, you had sworn by the fact that we are not going to see NYS 3. You remember that? And maybe you could just take us through some of the reforms that you have been putting in place in terms of structures and systems within the NYS, just make sure that it is on the right trajectory and, your word is still your bond.
My word is still my bond. I've been here for 3 years now, if you realize that. It has been that long, but very short, looking at what you've been doing. And I want to start by saying that in the subsequent interviews and any other interviews I want to do, I don't want to talk about NYS 3, NYS 1, and NYS 2, because we want to bury that one in the past. Simply because of the reform and the structures we put in place. We have now strengthened our human resource in terms of making sure that we get the right skill in the right place. We have revamped our procurement department. We have revamped our accounts department. But overall, the biggest reform is the coming of the council and ensuring that National Youth Service is now autonomous. The council is overseeing us, overseeing our activities, and any program, any project we do must be thought through, canvassed, and also making sure that there's a budget for it, making sure that there are plans for it, and we have a good strategic plan that we are looking at so that we just don't wake up in the morning and do any activities that we want. So any activity we have must be planned, and make sure that all these processes are taken through in terms of when we want to do procurement, we want to purchase anything, or we want to pay in for anything. The council has come in very strongly in terms of reforms because the council has 4 committees, but the most important committee in terms of NYS 1 and NYS 2, as you like calling it, is the issue of coming up with a very good or a very strong audit and risk committee. that audits all the activities that we do. Another committee that is also very important is Finance and Development Committee. Finance, Enterprise and Development Committee that first of all looks at whatever activity you want to do, whether it is the procurement plan, for example, whether those activities are aligned to our strategic plan, and therefore when we as management now, when embark on doing the activities or implementing the activities, we are in line. We are in line with whatever the council has approved. And another reform that we have come through is we are now on IFMIS. Therefore, all our activities can be tracked through from Treasury up to here, so that we know what has been paid, what has not been paid, very, very importantly. But another very important thing that we've also done is to ensure that we have decentralized. We have decentralized all the monies. When we get money from the from Treasury, we ensure that the 22 units, each one of it has its own money, so that they can do their own activities, and therefore it's very easy to audit whatever activity that you're going to do has been done. And if it's a question of food, because that's why the problem was, the food has actually reached the youth and they've eaten and the stores are checked. And that is, to us, is very important. But again, in terms of making sure that the structures and procedures are very strong, we have framework contracts, something that we never had before. So right now we know our suppliers. We can tell you that, for example, if there's an activity and it's urgent, we can call upon any of our contractors that is already tendered with us, registered with us. We know them, we know their background, we know their companies, they are registered. We are able to give somebody a job very fast. And we are also ensuring that there's equity in every work we are doing. There is transparency in every work we are doing. And therefore, that's what I'm saying. The council is there even to audit us, to audit what we are doing. And the council also reports back to the cabinet secretary, who is also put abreast on whatever we are doing at the National Youth Service. So the work of the National Youth Service is not a one-person show or a one-woman show. It is a question of a group, a team, a good, strong team that we have put together to ensure that all the functions are done transparently and within the law.
All right. Now, speaking of being a team, I want us to talk a bit about the aspect of inclusion, and this is now on the recruits that you get to take on as the National Youth Service, and this whole conversation around persons living with disabilities. Last year, you did make the call out in regards to each county having room for at least 2 persons under the recruit group for persons under the category of persons living with disabilities. How has it been so far in terms of adjusting to the needs of persons with disability and not discriminating within the service?
Thank you. When called out for people living with disability, first of all, we had overwhelming response from them. But I want to say that we just don't take all the disabilities.
Yes.
All forms of disabilities. We actually look for people living with albinism. We look for dwarfism. We look for at least somebody who can walk. You know, you might not have one limb, that is your hand, but you can walk. We don't take blind, so we take deaf people, and therefore we had about 47. So that means every county at least had one. Although not all of them are coming from one county, but there are certain counties that never produce any person living with disability. But in total, we had 47 of them. Now, how do we adjust? We adjust in the sense that our training program now has that component of disability, and we have ensured that we have trained our officers, especially in sign language, for example, because that is the biggest problem in terms of communication. And as I'm talking to you now, last Pass Out Parade, we had people living with the disability of not hearing, that's the deaf. They were able to pass out, and some of them were the best, and therefore we've retained them as instructors. So when they come, they are able to instruct the new ones into programs. Now, after this training, paramilitary, the most important thing also to note that even people living with disability, we will still take them to any course they want, and in any college that takes care of their disability, especially the people who are deaf. We make sure that they are taken to, for example, Nyangoma, a technical institute where they can learn how to do certain skills that they are interested in. Majority of them actually end up doing garment making, and I think that is very good. Majority of them also end up in doing other activities that really don't need a lot of talking or a lot of interaction. As the days go by, as we try to look for people living with disability, we can see the uptake is also going to be high. But remember, this is a disciplined and uniformed service, and therefore, looking at other services, I am very sure they might not be able to take people living with disability because they need to be active and they need to be officers, for example, who can walk around. But National Youth Service, because it gives the youth skills, we are able to take up this particular category of people living with disability. And it has been good. It has been gelled well. All of them are fine. All of them are happy. I'm hoping that on the pass out parade, you'll be able to see some of them are going to be awarded the best in their category. Not best because of their disability, but because of their performance. One of them is one serviceman who is a good footballer. The young man is very good in football, and yet he does not have one hand. And that is a very good plus and a motivation to other people living with disability.
I love that. Now, speaking of the passing out parade that will be happening in a few days to come, are there any new training areas that were introduced for this particular cohort that will be graduating?
Yes, this time we included training in cybercrime because of the new and emerging threats to the youth. We have also introduced training in COVID and other disaster management. These are new things that are coming. We didn't have them before. Things like the new areas we are looking at, also ICT, of which we never talked about before. But the most important one is the cyber crime and cyber crime detection, because we realize that most of these youths also use these gadgets, the iPhones, the telephones, the iPads, and also etc. To lure other youths into crime. So those are areas that we are looking at, and basically the issue of making sure people are safe, that is something we have also taken them through. We have also introduced a course in making sure that there's a PR, they understand PR at that level, although later on they'll be taken through in a very rigorous manner, but in the college they are also taken through issues of PR and also the issues of COVID, as I said. But other than the other normal programs to normally.
All right. Now, just looking at the fact that we are in this pandemic, and of course, as a service, you had to adjust to this, and especially looking at the number of recruits that you have to ensure their health and their safety throughout this period, what are some of those adjustments that you made during the training process, and also some that we can expect to see during the pass-out parade?
Thank you, and I'm happy you have asked that question, because I want to say that when the pandemic came, everybody was at loss. They didn't even know what to do, but we were able to put a team together, and we want to thank His Excellency the President, because he believed in the National Youth Service, and we were allowed even to recruit during that period. Remember, we recruited last year before the country was open, and we were able to recruit 7,000. We were able to recruit about 8,000, but right now, because of other issues, we have only 7,400 remaining. Now, we got 7,400 because of the COVID. Otherwise, we would have targeted a number that is about 12,000. But because we wanted space, we had to do about half of the required, the total recruits we wanted. Now, number two, we ensured that the barracks were well fitted with the windows, they were open, and making sure that the social distance in everything they do, whether they're sleeping, whether they're training, we ensure that the social distancing. We ensured for the first time that every time a mask now becomes part and parcel of the uniform, something we never used to have before. We also ensured that the trainers or the trainers and the instructors were on campus throughout. Nobody was allowed to go out, nobody was allowed to come in. And in every place where we were, where the servicemen, servicewomen are, the recruits are, They are washing points, they are sanitizing all the time. They ensure that before they go into the barracks, they sanitize. Before they go into to their classrooms, they sanitize. So every place they have, they sanitize and they wear masks all the time. And in fact, even when you talk about the passing out in which you have said, and you're passing out in on 24th of this month, that is Saturday, there are no parents who are coming. That is also another diverse thing that we want to do. There is no parent that is going to be there. There's no parent that is going to be there, and we ensure also that even the visitors who are coming are very few. We have only invited very, very, very few people. The seating arrangement, we are going to have very few people coming. So this time is going to be different. We're not going to have any of the parents coming to look and watch their beautiful daughters and handsome young men graduating. So that is a different we are going to have, and I'm very sure the recruits are not going to be very happy, but because of COVID, we must take those precautions. And again, this time, normally when the recruits pass, they go home with their parents, but this time they're not going back with their parents. They are going to our 22 units. We are going to ensure they go to their units immediately after pass out.
All right, fantastic. I love that. And, looking at the fact that, you are out for the good of these recruits and the youngsters who are joining the NYS, I'd like for you to tell us a bit more about the recently introduced program, the Border Riders program, because we're living in a time where just last year and earlier on this year, there was statistics that were put out that so many young people dropped out of school and sought employment. And for most young people, they went to the border sector, and it is quite an informal, still an informal group and way of getting a coin or two. So looking at the program that you have recently introduced, of course, in partnership with NTSA, tell us a bit more about it and what is the core reason as to why you chose to take up this particular program?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say that border has been a big issue in the country. Because of the many accidents, the many accidents across the country, and simply because what you've said, most youths, when they graduate from schools, especially class 8 and from 4, what they do is the next job available is border because it's easily available. And we have a big number of youths now who are engaged in riding these motorcycles without even license, without being trained, and so on and so forth. So the government, and especially His Excellency the President, saw it fit to ensure that this border sector is put back on track and ensure that there's some order and discipline on the road. And therefore, His Excellency the President is the one who directed that the National Youth Service takes up this training. This training simply because we also do character development in the National Youth Service, and the President knew we had that capacity to ensure that we partner with the NTSA to bring back sanity on the roads. And that's why the National Youth Service is actually squarely in charge of the training. We have other partners in terms of training these border people. We have Ministry of Interior, because of the coordination aspect of it. We have the police because of the enforcement aspect of it. We have the Ministry of ICT and Youth, making sure that we are together. But very importantly, that the National Youth Service has training school. I don't know whether people know that we have a training school, a very competent training school in National Youth Service. That's why we were given that mandate to ensure that we train this border so that we can have, first of all, discipline. That is the most important thing we bring to the table, discipline and order. And the NTSA will come up with the licensing. So the license will train, and the NTSA still licenses these border riders. The issue of bringing NYS on board, as I've said, is character development and making sure that these youths are trained and understand the highway code. But the Ministry of Interior, especially the county commissioners, the regional commissioners, assistant county commissioners, they ensure that they mobilize these youths. Now, once you mobilize these youths, it's very easy to train them in a certain region or a certain sub-county, and therefore we'll have their names, their numbers, and make sure that they come together so that they don't just ride a motorcycle, but they also are trained in making sure they have some entrepreneurial skills, so that that money they get, they can form a circle, and that circle can ensure that later on they borrow money to do other activities. Because remember, if you ride about a border, you cannot ride forever. Now, if they have this circle, that money will be able to assist them start other income generating activities. The National Youth Service is there to ensure there's some order. I know it's a tall order. It's a tall order. Let me say that it's a tall order because the border issue started some time back, and they've developed some culture, very, very bad culture on the road. Try to knock down a border, or the border will knock you down, and they're the ones who will feel aggrieved, and they'll ban your car. And you've seen so many cases of these borders doing bad things, crime. But let me say this, there are some borders who are very good, border riders who are very good, and they are very happy that you're introducing this training, because this training will bring sanity, this training will bring competency, this training will also ensure that they're put together and you know exactly who is where and where are you doing the riding, or where is your station or your stage. Therefore, there will be accountability. And because, again, you know that border, in every crime you have like 10 crime, since you'll always get a border or 9% will be border or 10% with the border riders involved. And therefore, we'll be also able to track down on issues of crime. So the police will also be able to ensure that they know who operates within their area. So National Service is partnering with the other partners, ensuring that there's safety, there is safety, and there's some discipline in the road in terms of border riding, and in terms of general motorcycle and motor vehicle ride in this country.
Fantastic. Now, as we draw this conversation to a close, for those who are watching us this morning, especially the younger people, the youth of our country, and they want to join the next group that will be recruited, of course, subject to the dates that are going to be put out by the service, where and how can they get this information in order to understand the requirements that they have to fulfill?
Thank you very much. After the pass out, which we are doing on 24th of this month, 24th of this month, this is this Saturday, in a 1 day to come, we will have to ensure that we have the Ministry of Health guidelines to ensure that we can actually congregate again, and therefore we don't know when we will recruit next, but we are hoping, if all goes well, we are hoping that by the first week of June, we should be recruiting. Now, we'll put this advert in the newspapers. We'll also put them on our website. We'll also put them in all social media, and we'll also ensure that the Ministry of Interior, through the county commissioners, also places this advert at the chief's camp and in every unit, so that we can get as many people as possible. Therefore, we will be able to tell them, and we'll be able to advertise adequately.
All right, thank you very much. We have been speaking with Matilda Sakwa, who is the Director General at the National Youth Service. We wish you all the best as you proceed on with your tenure in office. Akutakuwa na NYS3.
Usiseme hiyo neno tena, because I'm not here. We are here to ensure that there's no NYS3. So the issue of NYS1, NYS2 should be buried. We should never talk about it. Because now, when you talk about NYS1 and NYS2, is good because it reminds us of our history, but we should not dwell on it. We should move forward and get courage, and we want to affirm and we want to commit that there will be no NYS, whether it's one or two, there will be no other NYS. The only NYS you will see is a reformed NYS, and NYS that will be talked of and will be admired by everybody. It's unfortunate, let me say this, it's unfortunate everybody, and every time you talk about NYS, they still think about NYS1 and NYS2. The most unfortunate bit is because, I'm not saying it's good, but other ministries have done bad things, worse than NYS.
Yes.
But you know, sometimes when you talk about NYS1 and NYS2, we condemn the service. Let me say this. The service was intact, and the young men and women were on course, and the training went on very well. The only aspect of NYS that was bad was procurement. Procurement. And
which accounts. You have been working to streamline.
But the ones we have now fixed. But the other trainings, the other uniformed, the uniform part of NYS was intact, and it was good, and it's still serving the nation, the youth of this nation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We wish you the absolute best.
Thank you.
All right, that is Director General at the National Youth Service, Madam Matilda Sako. Remember, the Pass-Out Parade will be happening this Saturday and will be streamed live here on KBC, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that, especially if you are part of the family of the recruits that will be on this Pass-Out Parade. We are not yet done with Good Morning Kenya. Do stay with us. More coming up in a bit.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbin ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye Quickbin ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
My car was speeding. You know let me feel my partner. Why don't you, man? Just let us know about that misery. You got in trouble then, didn't you?
We'll talk about this.
No, we'll talk about it now. And I mean, since I buried my firstborn. Doesn't matter. Donald, I'm sick about the man's family. I was called to minister to people. That's what Mac's doing in my life, Deborah. Showing me where my heart really is. Just to pray for you every day. Ask your forgiveness. Love you the same. Just to be your friend always. That is the grace card.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Juhudi za Rais Uhuru Kenyatta za kujenga vituo maalum vya mpakani zimesaidia Kenya kupata mapato zaidi na kubuni nafasi za kazi kwa Wakenya. Wiki hii kwenye project 254
kabla once stop border post ije, ulikuwa unapata tunachukua muda mrefu sana kufanyiwa verification ya makaratasi yetu.
Kuwa na hii border post hapa, kuna vile inatusaidia wateja, kuna vile movement ya wateja huko, na unakuja unapata biashara tunaweza tukauza.
SPT imesaidia sana kwa sababu kitambo ilikuwa inachukua muda mtu apitishe, mtu ana gari.
Next on
Matumizi mabaya ya ofisi, hasa zaidi ofisi za umma. Na vile vitu vya mtoto vile vya akijisaidia, vile pampers vile. Pampers. Mchukulie. Jana soko isijui kwa wapi. Yeye mtu kujata mkia marikiti kwa wapi? Hizi jina marikiti kwa wapi? Na leo jaipitia. Anawacha kazi ya kupeleka fai, anatumwa supermarket. Hii kitu kinaharibu jina ya kampuni. This is what we call the guy. Kwa takataka kwa hapo. Yote, ndani tunaelewa kwa nje kwa ngule kwa ngara kabisa. Sasa, sikitangu ni tarakilishi. Huo ni ungwana kweli.
Gear up and maintain a healthy, fit and active lifestyle right there at home by keeping up with Gear Up on Channel 1, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Gear up every day for every moment, and remember to stay home and keep safe.
Good morning. You're still watching Good Morning Kenya right here on KBC Channel 1. Now we have shifted from matters on NYS and just having our guests there saying and reiterating that they are working to stamp out corruption in that particular sector or other firm or other organization, that arm of government, because NYS is government, right? So now we shift focus and focus on matters of sugar, sukari. We all have sweet teeth and we know what the sugar industry means for the country, employing millions of Kenyans directly and indirectly. Around 6 million Kenyans are, benefiting from the arm, or rather from the sugar industry. But sugar wars still continue. Joining me this morning is none other than the chair of the Kenya Alliance of Sugarcane Farmers, Mr. Stephen Ole Narupa. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you for your time. Now, when we talk about sugar, sukari, mambo ya sukari are very emotive, especially in sugar growing regions. Yeah. Now, let's start off with the parliamentary report of 2015 that linked the sugar deficit to a scheme by sugar importers to ship in cargo. Is this true, or do you concur with the findings of this particular report?
Thank you so much. There is this report of sugar deficit in the country. It has been there since 2008. It is actually 2,280 metric tons since 2008. Up to date, there is still a deficit of 2,280 metric tons. Up to date, we are complaining. Why are we having deficit each and every year? Why are we not growing enough sugar? Why are we importing sugar from other countries? Why our country is being a dumping site of the other developed world? So we are complaining as farmers. We want to have enough sugar in the country. We have capacity. We have mills. We can produce enough sugar to the country. So, for example, we have been given a lot of maybe a lot of companies to import sugar from outside the country. We are not being told. We are given A and B this amount of sugar to import from the other countries. But we are just given, okay, we have a deficit of 280 metric tons. Why 280 tons? Why are we not given, okay, company A will bring 120 metric tons. Company B will bring 80 metric tons. But what we are complaining about when we farmers, we are complaining about it. Why is it being given a lot of sugar to be coming in? We are not actually auditing the sugar which is coming to the country. We are complaining about it. What is the deficit, exact deficit? What amount are they importing from outside the country?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You've raised very pertinent issues there, and what I'm hearing is the issue you're questioning the issue of clarity. You need to know who is importing how much,
yes,
and as well as an audit to the quality of assurance in regard to this sugar that is getting into our local market.
Yeah.
Over the years, we had the issue of counterfeit, and sugar is one, and the cashew was quite was destroyed there, and it was said to have had components of mercury.
Yeah.
I think you're borrowing from that particular experience there. Now that you've said you have the requisite capacity to bridge the deficit, the sugar production deficit,
yes.
Why haven't you done so as sugarcane farmers?
We as farmers, we have been actually complaining about it. For example, farmers are not being paid enough for their raw materials. For example, if at all farmers will be motivated to do a lot of care in the country, then we will not have even any deficit. For example, they were talking of mercury, wherever the sugar was imported with a lot of mercury, but there's no substantial evidence showing that there was mercury. Why is he coming to the country? What are they doing? The KBS, what are they doing? Why are they not auditing? Why are they not seeing all this? And then after he has come to the country, we come to realize there was a sugar with a mercury. Where is that mercury up to date? It has disappeared. But we farmers, we want to be paid enough. For example, if I be paid at 10,000 shillings per ton, and then I'll be able to produce enough sugar, I'll go to the shamba and I'll have a lot of shambas, we'll get a lot of sugar, that will not have any other deficit in the whole country. But now, the farmers are paying peanuts, 3,600. And you expect that farmer to go again to the shamba. You have a lot of bills, you have debts, you have kids to go to school, maybe you have hospital bills, and you expect that farmer to go again and do larger farmers, or to do larger scale, for them to benefit actually. We are not happy as farmers of this country. We want the CS of agriculture, for example, to do due diligence to the farmers because we are not getting enough pay. Yes.
Now, talking about pay, let's also, from a farmer point of view, you are in the value chain.
Yes.
You're actually in the nascent stage of sugar production.
Yes.
Then. When we talk about trying to address the high cost of production and low yields, then what recommendations would you have in regard to that matter?
For example, if, in our country, for example, Kenya, the cost of production is too high. If you compare to the other countries, for example, Uganda is now dumping sugar to the country. They are buying at 1,200 per ton. Here, Kenya, we are selling at 3,600. Do you expect millers to go and do the shambas, or they will just go and get the cheap sugar from Uganda? So we as farmers, we want to be motivated so that we can get enough sugar, we can produce enough sugar. If we get, for example, if we have good, very cheap fertilizers, very cheap seed cans, and then even the price of fuel is too high for us to go to use it to the shambas. So if we can get subsidized, for example, fertilizer and seed cane, the farmers will go to the shamba and get enough seed cane, enough shambas, enough cane, so that this country can produce enough sugar instead of us going to the neighboring country, bringing the cheap sugar from Uganda, for example, and this other developed world. Yes.
Now, still looking at the value chain and focusing on the production, there's been a conversation around, most millers are using aged equipment as well as obsolete technology, in sugarcane production. What, as farmers, are you going to do in regard to, upgrade these machines? I mean, we are lowering the cost of production.
Okay, for example, the government introduce CTC center, that is cane testing, testing unit. They already use sucrose, you test the sucrose and you're being paid using sucrose. But now in our country, if you want to use sucrose to pay the farmer, then you have to have enough or sufficient transport. In our country, we don't have enough roads, we don't have good roads. So if you do the CTC, for example, if you do the cane testing unit, and then you will not be able to transport cane on time. Maybe, for example, I'm from Transmara. Transmara, there's a lot of rain each and every time. You cannot be able to transport your cane throughout unless it will stay in the shamba for a long period, 2 to 3 weeks. So that one will not work in this country unless they use other means, but not the one we are using at the moment.
Now, talking about means, maybe Stephen Olenarupa, there's a chairman of the Kenya Alliance of Sugarcane Farmers.
Yes.
Maybe you can help me understand, and also our viewers this morning, what process then does the cane go through before we get to, have it in our favorite beverages? What's the process?
Thank you. You start by doing the preparation of the shamba. You plant a cane, you do weeding, then after that you harvest.
Is cane a seed? Do you? Let's start from there.
Yes, cane is.
Let's go to the basics.
Yes.
Do you buy it as a seed?
You buy as a seed. Yes, it is a seed because it is a plant crop. And then it has some maturity time when it's reached, and then you harvest it. And then you go and put in the shamba, you furrow the shamba, and then you just line up, and then you cut into pieces, and then the times it grows. Then after that it grows, then you wait for some 18 months to 24 months to harvest. After you harvest, maybe you contracted a certain company. For example, you contracted Transmara Sugar Company, Sony Sugar Company, Sukari Industry. And then when it's reached the maturity time, and then they will come and harvest for you. Then they will charge you the harvest. For example, in Transmara, being charged 300 shillings per ton. That is the farmer. Then transport will cost you another 790 shillings. That cost will still go to the farmer.
So getting it from the shamba that is harvesting and transporting it is around 1,090 shillings.
Yes, 1,090 shillings for a ton. And then we still have cess 1%. And then
1%
cess 1%.
1090.
Yes, of 1090.
It's around 180. Thereabouts?
It's around 1,000 shillings.
Yes, 1,000 shillings.
Yes. Then after that, and then you wait for the factory to crash, and then you'll be paid. Others are not able to pay the farmer. For example, if you go to the state-owned mill, they don't pay the farmer for the last maybe 2-3 years. Others are not being paid up to that. And then you find the private millers are the one dominating the sugar industry. Others are able to pay on weekly, and then others are even delaying to 2 months. So the farmer will be still making a lot of loss, You wait for 24 to 26 months, 3 years, not been paid, and then again you wait for another 3 months after the cane has been crushed. If you go to the state-owned mill, you find there's no cane. Okay, you have harvested the cane, you have supplied to the factory on time, and then after that they crush, they sell the sugar, there's no money. If you go to the store, there's no sugar and there's no money. Where do those money goes?
Good question. Now, when you're talking about state-owned mills,
yes.
the issue of privatization of these state-owned mills,
yes.
is it the answer to your question?
Yeah, it will be the good answer, because if we do the privatization, and then it means you will give an investor to invest in your country, for example. And then we are wondering why the government is doing business with the taxpayer. We are the taxpayers and the government doing business with us. Why do the government own the mills? Why are they just relinquish that mill to the farmers or to the investor? So if we get this own state mill to the private investor, and then we will get enough sugar in the country will not even have a deficit, will and produce enough sugar to the country. So to me, I can see privatization is the best way to go. Yes.
Now, maybe you're supporting the statistics that we have here is that when you look at the production in terms of capacity, what has been produced in the year 2020, we have public millers accounting for 14% of the sugar produced, while private millers accounted for 86% of the sugar. Is this the state?
Okay, this is 2017, if I'm not wrong.
2020.
2020, even 2018, 2017, the same statistic. If you will ask, for example, Narupa, when did these people do this statistic? I am from the sugar growing area. They never been in our area. They just took the statistic from the millers. Maybe the miller will achieve them and then they'll record it, because they are not working actually. There before they were using, there was a group called the Sugar Board, and then there was, and then they changed to Sugar Directorate. They were supposed to actually to regulate the sugar industry, and now they are not doing it. They were using SDL, Sugar Development Levy, to do all these statistics. And we as farmers, we are the one producing, okay, we are the one paying the SDL, and the miller paying the 2% from the farmer, 2% from the miller. And then the mismanagement of those money. They mismanage it. They just come to Nairobi and have the statistic in Nairobi. They are not going to the shambas. They are not going to the field so that they can get real statistics. These are just cheating reports, not reality.
So you're not. It's not the reality.
Not the reality.
On ground. Oh, can you paint a picture of what the reality looks like on ground in terms of our production capacity and where we are, at least for the last 1 year or so?
For the last 1 year, for example, if you go to the back to the last year, there was a lot of sugar which has been imported to the country. And then they were telling us there's a deficit of 280 metric tons, and you find they just import about 10,000 metric, 1 million metric tons, for example. How do you substantiate that it was 280 metric tons and yet you brought in 1 million metric tons? That is number one. If they were following their statistics, they could have even know this is the deficit, and then we are going to allow company A and B to bring in this one. But for now, they are not following the right statistic.
Mr. Narupa, now,
yes.
Straight question.
Yes.
The reforms that have been put in place in the sugar industry, are they working or are they not?
At the moment, there's no reforms.
We have the Sugar Task Force, they gave a report.
We have the Farmers Task Force also gave the report. We gave to the former Prime Minister, we gave to the President, we gave to the CS Agriculture, but up to date there's no reform. Good enough, Honorable Munya did a gazette of the report. And then after that, there is a group rush to court to stop the process. Now here, the farmers doesn't have the regulations. We are just doing anyhow. If you want to do your own cane, if you want to do any, you will do whatever you want alone. But if we could have the regulation, and then this country will have enough sugar, we'll have the guideline to produce enough sugar. But at now, there's no regulation. Number two, the team which is working with the government, they're the one who took the government to court. We have a case now in Kakamega High Court, Bungoma High Court, stopping the regulation which has been considered by the minister. Yes.
It seems that, like, stakeholders within the value chain are shooting themselves in the foot in regard, to just trying and bringing the sugar industry back to profitability.
But
pulling in different directions.
Yeah, if you go to it, this sugar industry has a lot of issues. It has a lot of corruption, being honest. If you find the other team is fighting the other team because they just want farmers to be stuck there. For example, if today you told me, Narupa, you are not going to sell your sugar cane to factory A. Why am I be denied that? That is my right. I have to send my cane where I want. For example, why are we not having a free market? Now I'm seeing there is something called zoning. They want to zone the farmers to not sell their produce to anywhere they want.
Yeah, you just picked that off my brain here. I just want, maybe let's just address it. We're talking about zoning, a form that has been, or rather, one of the objectives of this zoning is to bring profitability to the farmer. But now as a farmer, you're saying this curtails your sale. You know who buys your cane faster, who pays you better. In regard to zoning, maybe you can give us more information.
For example, if we have been told we zone the farmers, they have they have created a region, or they are calling a catchment area.
Yes.
And then you want to zone me as a farmer to not supply cane to the other miller. For example, me, I like you as a miller, I want to supply you my cane. And then you as a government, you want to deny me my right to sell my cane where I can see that I will be paid better, promptly, on time, and then you want me to sell my cane to the miller who is not able to pay. 2,000 farmers are not being paid, and you still forcing me to sell my produce to the same person. Is that right? For example, they are free to sell their produce wherever they want. They will send their sugar from Transmara to Mombasa, from Mombasa to maybe Moyale. And as farmers, we want to do also the free market. We want to do free market, free business. Sokohuru, we want to be in Sokohuru. Why are they denying us our rights? You sold me for what? This cane, it is me who go to the shamba. I went alone to the shamba. After the maturity time, that is the time you came in and start telling me, oh, you don't have to sell your cane to this side. And you see the potato people are selling viazi from Nakuru to Nairobi. The fishermen are selling their fish to Nairobi. Why are they not selling fish to not come from Lake Victoria? Then they can produce fish here in Nairobi. Why is it the sugarcane farmers? Why are they not selling tea? Why are they not selling coffee? Why cane farmers?
So, Mr. Narupa, the zoning is not working?
No, not working. Even the task force, farmers task force, we denied. The farmers said no for zoning. We want a free market. That is our stand.
Now, as we stand, do you see futuristically, where do you see sugarcane farming industry locally? Because there's been talk about some farmers not willing to go the long haul in the sugar industry or rather sugar production because of what you've mentioned. They're not getting value for their money.
Yes.
So are you seeing a case where these farmers are going to diversify into other cash crops and, in favor, because sugarcane is not working anymore?
Yeah, it is possible because, for example, we as, for example, from Transmara, we normally do ng'ombe. Now we are seeing this crop is not beneficial. Then we have to decide to go back to ng'ombe, and then we change, and then that factory will start there, and then it will collapse. So if the government will not be strict on the regulations and force these cartels to leave the farmers to be in a free market, and then all the millers will collapse. But if the government, the CS who is in charge at the moment, control the sugar industry, I'm telling you, it is a profitable industry. For example, if I can add you something. I saw industrial ministry last week. They were in Uganda negotiating with the Uganda government so that they can bring in cheap sugar to the country.
Actually, it is already a signed agreement, trade agreement last week there, where Uganda is going to be allowed to import up to 90,000 metric tons of sugar into the country.
That is just in papers, 90,000 metric tons. If you go in paper. If you go in detail, to be millions of metric tons. And again, the industrial ministry, without even I don't know whether it has consulted the Ministry of Agriculture. It is industrial. Industrial doesn't grow sugar. We have the Ministry of Agriculture who is supposed to be in charge of that. And why are they?
Government, they have made that conversation.
Yeah, I know it's a government, but why? We are also, the farmers or the mwananchi is more than the government. We are the one of the government. That we need to be given enough support. For example, there is a group of Ministry of Agriculture, not in parliamentary agriculture committee. They are now proposing to have again zoning. And those who are sitting in that committee are the members of parliament from those areas.
Well, the sugar industry indeed has a lot of challenges and woes. Thank you very much, Stephen Ole Narupa, who is the chair of the Kenya Alliance of Sugarcane Farmers, saying that sugarcane farmers need a lot of support, subsidized fertilizer, as well as harmonization of some of the policies that they say or rather regard as draconian and in, stifling the growth or rather return of profitability of the sugar industry. I'm Regina Manyara. You've been watching Good Morning Kenya right here on KBC Channel 1. Thank you very much for your time. Coming up in not too long is the JSC interviews there with only 2 candidates remaining, and the one who is going to be sitting on the hot seat this morning is none other than Professor Moni Wekese. Have a pleasant viewing.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye Quickbit ni la bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Usitegemee kupata jino lenye afya kwenye mdomo uliooza. Usikubali kupokea zawadi ya nguo kutoka kwa mtu aliyeuchi. Mapenzi ni kufaana, nifae ni kufae. Hisani ni njia mbili, nipe nikupe. Ila ni muhimu kufahamu kwa sio binadamu wote watakushukuru hata watendeapo mema. Ukitaka thawabu kutoka mbinguni, we tenda wema tu, uondoke.
Ili kupata skiza tuni ya pumzi ya busara, bonyeza star 811 star 815 hash. Bonyeza star 811 star 815 hash.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Juhudi za Rais Uhuru Kenyatta za kujenga vituo maalum vya mpakani zimesaidia Kenya kupata mapato zaidi na kubuni nafasi za kazi kwa Wakenya. Wiki hii kwenye project 254
kabla once to border post ije, nilikuwa napata tunachukua muda mrefu sana kufanyiwa verification ya makaratasi yetu.
Kuwa na hii border post hapa kuna vile inatusaidia wateja, kuna vile movement ya wateja huko, na unakuja napata biashara tunaweza tukauza.
SPT imesaidia sana kwa sababu kitambo ilikuwa inachukua muda mtu apitishe, mtu ana gari.
Speeding. You know let me feel my partner. Why don't you, man? Just let us go about that misery. We got in trouble again, didn't you?
We'll talk about this.
No, we'll talk about it now. And I learned since that day with my first boy. It's a matter of why. Donald, I'm sick about the Nash family. I was called to minister to people. That's what Mac's doing in my life, Deborah. Showing me what my heart really is. Was to pray for you every